will take effect at 2400 Greenwich Mean Time, January 27, 1973. The United States and the Democratic Republic of Vietnam express the hope that this agreement will ensure stable peace in Vietnam and contribute to the preservation of lasting peace in Indochina and Southeast Asia. That concludes the formal statement. Throughout the years of negotiations, we have insisted on peace with honor. In my addresses to the nation from this room of January 25th and May 8th, I set forth the goals that we considered essential for peace with honor. In the settlement that has now been agreed to, all the conditions that I laid down then have been met. A ceasefire, internationally supervised, will begin at 7 p.m. this Saturday, January 27, Washington time. Within 60 days from this Saturday, all Americans held prisoners of war throughout Indochina will be released. There will be the fullest possible accounting for all of those who are missing in action. During the same 60-day period, all American forces will be withdrawn from South Vietnam. The people of South Vietnam have been guaranteed the right to determine their own future without outside interference. By joint agreement, the full text of the agreement and the protocols to carry it out will be issued tomorrow. Throughout these negotiations, we have been in the closest consultation with President Thieu and other representatives of the Republic of Vietnam. This settlement meets the goals and has the full support of President Thieu and the government of the Republic of Vietnam, as well as that of our other allies who are affected. The United States will continue to recognize the government of the Republic of Vietnam as the sole legitimate government of South Vietnam. We shall continue to aid South Vietnam within the terms of the agreement, and we shall support efforts by the people of South Vietnam to settle their problems peacefully among themselves. We must recognize that ending the war is only the first step toward building the peace. All parties must now see
on New Guinea by virtue of the victory at Lae was considerable. The Japanese-controlled part of New Guinea was still the larger, but it was shrinking fast. With the Lae-Salamaua Area 1, the Allied troops consolidated their position and prepared for future assaults against other enemy concentrations in New Guinea. The GIs and Aussies who had taken the Lae area in a truly joint operation moved on to extend Allied control on the Huon Peninsula. But for many, there were a few days in which to relax before going back into action. New Guinea wasn't quite up to the standards of real rest areas, but at least the men could take a short breather. From the airstrips near Lae, now in Allied hands, American and Australian planes continued the attack against the enemy without pause. From the new advanced bases, Allied pilots could pound enemy positions in western New Guinea without let-up. The missions against Japanese Army units, supply dumps, and shipping were stepped up during November and December. By the end of 1943, the enemy in New Guinea was finally completely on the defensive. U.S. 5th Air Force bombers carried the fight to the enemy, softening up the areas where new leapfrogging invasions were already planned.
a small island 6 miles off Iceland's south coast, burst into life, threatening the lives of everyone in its shadow. A vast river of molten lava erupted from a mile-long fissure, or cleft in the ground, and headed for Vestmannaeyjar, the island's port. Fortunately, however, it was moving slowly enough to give the authorities time to start an orderly evacuation of the town's 5,300 inhabitants. 6 hours after the eruption began, most of them were on their way to the Icelandic mainland, either by plane or fishing boat. Around 200 police, fire crews and rescue workers remained, but there was little they could do as the deadly lava flow and 1.5 million tons of ash engulfed much of the town, destroying 350 houses and badly damaging more than 400. Although the lava and other volcanic material had first emanated from a fissure in the ground rather than a mountain, after 2 days it began forming a huge cinder cone. As the cone grew, the lava started flowing from its summit. By the end of February, the cone had reached a height of 600 feet and was expelling a torrent of lava and rocks up to 100 feet deep. As the inhabitants of Heimaey helplessly watched its terrifying onslaught, they named the cone Eldfell, or Fire Mountain. But a few weeks later, as the great 1,000-yard-wide river of lava, moving at between 3 and 9 yards a day, looked as if it might reach and destroy the fishing harbor, the main source of the town's livelihood, something had to be done. So, in a desperate attempt to stem the deadly flow, seawater was sprayed onto the river of molten rock to try and solidify it, or at least divert its relentless progress. Specialist pumping equipment was brought in from the US, and a ship with the ability to direct vast amounts of water moved into the harbor. The operation, in which nearly 1.5 billion gallons of water was hosed non-stop onto the lava using 19 miles of pipe